Hi there, it's Jaya
and Ellen.
We are the creators of RSVP, which stands for Reclaim Sexual Vitality Postpartum. It's a program for women that teaches them how to end pain after childbirth. And ending pain, we've been talking about scars. And I think a lot of people don't even realize how much scars affect their life. And recently, Ellen, you've had an experience where you saw that very thing happen.
Indeed, I've just returned from a teaching trip, and I had a lot of opportunity to talk about scar tissue and to get my hands on scar tissue because often when I go on a teaching trip, I do sessions with people. So I had a combination of session work, demo work, and teaching work about scar tissue. So it was all scar tissue all the time.
Scars, I bet you were in heaven.
I was busy, put it that way. Definitely very busy. So one of the situations that came about was working on a woman who was about, close to a year postpartum. And she had had a C-section, an emergency C-section for her birth, and was having still incredible discomfort, even, months and months out from her surgery. She felt it pulling on her every moment of the day and could hardly sit still because of her sensitivity, her level of embodiment, and the intensity of the sensation left over from the C-section. And she was saying, I'm doing my own castor oil massage. I'm doing it every day and I'm still so uncomfortable. What can I do? So I was working on her, and I worked with quite a lot of pressure into the scar, more than she had even thought was possible, and more than she could put on in terms of her own self. So I actually had to really manipulate and go in with the castor oil. She'd done a lot of passive castor oil application using flannel and heat, but that got in. Her scar felt soft, but the pulls on the deep parts of her vagina and her uterus were still very present.
So she was someone who was aware of the scar tissue affecting her life.
Yes.
What about men? Do you feel like scar tissue affects men as well? And do you think there's a different awareness between men and women?
That's interesting. I think that women tend to have more relationship with pain. They're not told to buck up and kind of put up with it and be manly and ignore the pain. But what I noticed was working with men, they're absolutely as affected by scars. We all have bodies, and all of our bodies have dysfunction here and there. I worked on a man who'd actually had a bicycle accident and had his spleen removed as a result of that. Again, creating...
I've seen some massive scars from spleens,
this was huge. A big scar that followed all the way around the rib cage from underneath the diaphragm all the way around to the bottom of the ribs on the left side. So I was actually doing a demo with this man. He volunteered his scar for a scar tissue demonstration as part of my teaching. And I was massaging it, and he was actually choking because he could feel the pull of the scar all the way up through his diaphragm, up above his ribs, up through the connective tissue around the lungs and the heart, all the way up into his throat.
So the scar was was he aware of anything that was affecting his throat?
He had no idea how that scar tissue could have grown up that far into his throat, and it was a spleen removal. So he was shocked. He was really, really surprised. And this is a guy who also was pretty self-aware, pretty sensitive in his body, but who had no idea of the far-reaching kind of the growth pattern of what scars can do and how far it could go up and even affect throat, neck, head, even up behind his eyes. He said he felt a pull.
Wow.
Really amazing from an incision at quite a distance.
And what about men's sexual health? Since we talk a lot about sexual vitality, have you seen scar tissue affecting men's sexual health?
Oh, I absolutely have. And it goes far beyond, the circumcision conversation into, it's funny how things kind of come in waves. I had this wave of men with one testicle in 1 week, like 3 different guys who came in. One had lost a testicle.
I find it in threes too.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So I had a man who had lost a testicle due to testicular cancer, who had a large scar from all the way on his perineum that went into his anus, and he was feeling some discomfort and some pulling, but mainly it was because his partner was concerned for his prostate health because of testicular cancer. She thought prostate cancer might be a possibility, so she wanted to learn about prostate care and how he could tell if he was feeling inflammation. So I was teaching them about that. Then I had another man come in from who had had a twisted testicle in childhood, and then worn a prosthesis because his parents thought that would make him more comfortable. And then in his 30s decided he didn't need it. It was causing some discomfort. He had it removed. So he had had not one but three surgeries and a lot of scar tissue around his pubic bone area. And he had no idea. He had come to my workshop, and just 1 out of 5 modules was talking about scar tissue, but the rest of the workshop was about different aspects of incorporating yoga, sexuality, better health. And he thought that the scar tissue segment was not for him. It was the least interesting. In fact, he thought, well, maybe I'll just skip that segment. He turned out to be the most enthusiastic participant. This light bulb went off in his brain, like, oh my God, could my scars be affecting my sexual health? And it turned out he had made this imaginary no-fly zone from his pubic bone all the way into his pelvic floor.
That he didn't touch?
That he didn't touch or allow other people. Penis was okay for touching, but not anything else. And as I got close to the skin around his pelvic floor, his scrotum, he started to shake, and he started to get nauseous, and he started to have a cold sweat. He was going into shock because his body had this memory of these repeated surgeries of a disowned part that he'd completely put out of his mind. In fact, never even remembered that, or never even had an awareness that it could be affecting him. He thought, oh, I'm fully, you know, a completely functional, sexually healthy man. And that's the kind of insidious quality of scars, is that we forget that we have them. And if we forget, how can we know how much of an effect they're having? And in fact, this man had really disowned a large part of his body as a result, and had a lot of tension, legs, adductor tendons, all in the inner leg line, etc., from not because there was scar there, but because there was emotion there. And when the emotion came up and out of his body, he relaxed and came into a much more relaxed sense of embodiment. It was very relieving to him. He said he felt like a new person.
Wow.
Yeah, very interesting.
Amazing. So you may have had things in your life, or pain, or different health issues, and it may be scars. And we walk around not even, I didn't even realize that it could be, there was stuff before my birth that I learned about from you that was an issue that I didn't even know I was walking around with. So you may have scars, and we have a quiz on our site that you can download and take to find out if you may be having pain or be affected by the scar tissue. So go to our site, reclaimsex.com, and you can get that and more in-depth information like this. Visit us today, reclaimsex.com.
Thanks.
Thank you.